All right, there we go. So I just want to start us, I'm going to start us off with a prayer. So ask everybody, please join me in prayer in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Given the times of transition, we're in like constant transition. This is a prayer called Times of Transition. God of love, you are with us in every transition and change during this time. As we enter into each transition with uncertainty and even some anxiety, we recall your deep compassion, presence, and abounding love. We thank you for the gifts, talents, and skills with which you have blessed us to be leaders for our school community. We thank you for the experiences that have brought us to lead in this moment. We thank you for the work of others that gives breadth and depth to our work. Be with us as we move forward, rejoicing with you and supporting one another. We ask this in your holy name. Amen. In the name of the Father and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So thanks everybody for being here. I know this was kind of a late add-on, and I know everybody's busy and has a lot going on, and today is an opportunity for us to just have a discussion around Catholic identity and what we're doing on our campuses, what we can do in the future, and share ideas. But to start us off, I'm going to introduce a little bit about myself. My name is Carlos Arriaga. I am the athletic director at St. Joseph Notre Dame High School in Alameda, California. I've been in Catholic education now for, this is my 23rd year. I served as a teacher for 8 years, and then the last 15 in athletic administration. It's something that I absolutely love. I've really enjoyed my work and all the ever-changing aspects of the work. So I absolutely love it. So and one of the things that is near and dear to my heart as well is just our Catholic faith, and that's one of the reasons why I am in Catholic education, because I love the thought of and the synergy around both faith and sport. And so when this organization started, Leo had asked if I would be willing and to kind of lead and help facilitate conversations around Catholic identity and faith and sport. And so it's something that I'm excited and thankful that I have the opportunity to do. What I'd like to do is have everybody kind of go around and introduce themselves. If you could, share your name, what school you're with, maybe how many years you've been in Catholic education, years as an athletic director, and maybe something that inspires you in Catholic education as it relates to sport. So if somebody want to start first, jump right in.
I'll go. Oh, sorry, we're raising hands.
Go ahead, Rob.
Raise my hand too.
Right.
Rob Bishop. I'm at Palma School down in Salinas, California. It's my 4th year here as the AD. It's actually my 4th year as an athletic director. I was in college coaching for about 20 years on the basketball side. And the service side of the whole thing, seeing our teams participate outside of school as a team in uniforms, getting out in our community, helping, doing the different things that we have set up for service opportunities is kind of one of the things that really makes me feel good about doing this job and know we're doing it the right way. So, yeah.
Thanks, Rob. Who wants to go next? Leo.
Leo Lopez, De La Salle High School. I've been here, 20-something years. I've been assistant AD. I think it was like 7 years, and this is my 14th year or 15th. I can't remember. So I just, first of all, thank you for everyone coming on here. It means a lot to me personally, because I look back and reflect on what keeps me at the same school. And I graduated from De La Salle as well. And really, for me, Catholic community, identity, and the value system and all that stuff that we all live for and strive for in our students and our student athletes every day is what kind of gets me out of bed. And it's a challenging task, which I appreciate Carlos taking the lead, because I really believe now in this stage of my life and career, it's kind of like, how do I maintain it? How do I continue to help others make good decisions for themselves? And what are the best ways to do it? And I think it's a challenging time, especially because for me, community is a big deal, and we're not in a community essentially. It's a digital community, so I'm always wondering how people are evolving, and I'd like to learn from you and hopefully pick off some good ideas and share some that maybe that you can take back in your community as we do these monthly roundtables that are going to kind of be led by Carlos and others. So it's glad to meet. I know most of you, but thanks for everyone else coming on, and look forward to talking.
Thanks, Leo. Who would like to go next?
I can go.
Hillary.
Hi, Hillary Kiger. I'm at Bishop O'Dowd. This is my 7th year at O'Dowd, and I got to work with Carlos for my first, however many, 5 years, I guess, which is awesome. And he is a great person to get this conversation started, because that's totally who he is, which is awesome. In terms of this aspect of our work, I think COVID has shown us that it's more about that stuff when it comes to sports than the actual sports itself, right? Or that sports is like the avenue in which everybody is learning and being challenged and being, really reminded to draw on faith and all that. So I've enjoyed having a lot of these types of conversations with my team. I also coach cross country and track. And yeah, just looking forward to diving more into it with everybody.
Thanks, Hillary. Who'd like to go next?
I'll go. Chris George. I'm up here in Portland, Oregon. LaSalle Prep, as we're called, I guess. And this is my 4th year as the athletic director. I'm a graduate of LaSalle, and been at LaSalle for a total of 15 years now. And I guess what draws me to Catholic education and athletics is just the challenge of incorporating faith and a value system into sports. So it's dissimilar to and countercultural, and it is a challenge, but it's awesome when you can see it come together on teams and then talk about the success and the challenges that occur across your department. One coach to another, noticing things, building off of each other. I think it's awesome because it's public. You can see it, you can view it. Whereas in a classroom, it's a little bit harder for teachers to be able to see it happening. So I enjoyed that aspect of it.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Hey, Ann.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be here.
Teachers, sorry for the interruption.
They're in school.
I'm jealous. That means you're at school.
Get a number of them who'll be coming to 6th period a little bit late. Thank you for your.
All right.
Okay, so we are back in school
All
for.
right.
I'm Ann Julian. I'm at Covington Holy Cross in Covington, Kentucky. This is my 22nd year in Catholic education, 12th year as the athletic director. Before that, I was at Southwest Baptist University. So I've always been in a faith-based education. I truly enjoy being able to use faith-based information to help students get through life. Sorry about this.
That's all right.
As well as their parents to use the Bible and information from that to help them cope with their everyday challenges. So good to be here.
Thanks, Ann. Kevin?
Yeah, so my name's Kevin Minus. I'm the athletic director, vice principal of student life at Bellarmine Prep in Tacoma, Washington. For those who don't know where Tacoma is, most people we just say Seattle because everybody knows Seattle. But I've been in Catholic education for 18 years. The last 5, 6 as the activities director, and then 2 years ago we combined athletics and activities under one umbrella of student life. The thing that we've been, what draws me to Catholic education and Catholic athletics is kind of what we've been focusing on during the COVID situation, is that co-curriculars, and we're really careful to call them co-curriculars because they're just as important as the math and the science class to a lot of these kids, about building who we are. And that's what we've been telling the coaches to kind of focus on, and the program heads, is that this is a great opportunity to really focus on the things that we get too busy to do when we're preparing for games, and really focus on what makes us different than some of the other teams and communities that we compete against. And that's what draws me to the Catholic education and Catholic sports, is that we do focus on some of those other things that set us apart.
Thanks, Kevin. Chris.
I'm Chris Long. Hello, everybody. I'm Chris Long. I'm the athletic director at Juan Diego Catholic High School in Draper, Utah. Draper is a suburb of Salt Lake City. Chris, I've got a nephew who graduated from LaSalle. P.S. This is my 43rd year in education. And just, not that I'm counting, but I have 236 more days. And my address at this time next year will be, now where are we again? In that time, I have been a teacher, administrator, obviously athletic director. I was a wrestling coach for years. I'm father of 3 Catholic school graduates, 2 at Judge Memorial and 1 at Juan Diego. I now have 2 granddaughters here on the campus. My oldest granddaughter is on the drill team. And being a Catholic school in Salt Lake City, Utah is unlike being a Catholic school anywhere else in the United States. In our 20-year, we've been open 20 years. In that time, we have won 51 state championships, about 118 region championships. And we are possibly the most visible face of the Diocese of Salt Lake City in the entire state. And that's a huge responsibility, but it is also a blessing. That people that I don't know have come up to me many, many times and just say what a quality program we have, and how much they admire our school, and how much they admire the way we interact with our community. And it's to quote Gus McCrae at the end of Lonesome Dumb, it's been a hell of a party.
Curtis. Thanks, Chris.
Hello, everyone. My name is Curtis Price. I'm the athletic director of Marion Central Catholic High School. It's located in Woodstock, Illinois, which is about 68 miles northwest of Chicago. I've been the athletic director here at Marion. This is my 7th year, but I've been part of the high school since 1997. Came in as assistant boys coach, then transitioned to varsity coach. I'm assistant athletic director, and now I'm in the AD position. Been part of Catholic education since I was 14. And one of the reasons why I decided to stay within the Catholic system is one of the things that I learned being in the Catholic high school was it helps you develop as a person as well as build your faith. And that's something that I try to work on each and every day with our student athletes here as well as our coaches. And that's one of the main reasons why I decided to stay within the Catholic education.
Thanks, Curtis. Dale.
Dale Milton, Christian Brothers High School, Sacramento. I've been here now 17 years, 7 years as an AD, 10 years as a history teacher and basketball and football coach. And, you know, charisms are all very similar. We use Lasallian charism and we follow that. And then I've also incorporated a lot of John Wooden, because if you look at John Wooden was very spiritual. A lot of that came from his father. So we also incorporate a lot of the Wooden course ideas, his 7-point creed, which is very similar to our Lasallian core principles. And, you know, that's about it. Try to get back to normalcy around here.
Yeah, thanks, Dale. So the question I wanted to kind of pose out there, what are some of the schools, what do some of you do out there in terms of just kind of faith formation with your coaching staff? You know, one of the things I've found with during this time is it's really created an opportunity for us to meet more frequently. And, you know, not in person, obviously, you know, and where we're at in California, but it has provided opportunity for us to meet together on a more frequent basis. So, you know, right now we're once a month, and, you know, and I have found that in particular, just to gather in community and have a place for all of us to get together and connect has been really, really helpful and successful at this time. And during this time, I know I've personally found it very helpful for this particular organization to get together and to work with each other and listen to each other during the difficult times. And so I say right now for us, you know, as just kind of a most basic level, it's been gathering as community more frequently than we have in years past. So I'd love to hear what you guys are doing right now that is kind of faith-based or rooted in Catholic values around what you're doing right now with your coaching staff.
So one thing I think was really successful we did last summer, and we couldn't obviously do it this summer because of COVID-19, but I had a varsity head coaches retreat for a weekend in the summer. And we have a retreat house the Christian Brothers has on the Russian River. And that was an amazing experience. So, you know, some of it was faith-based, but a lot of it was just the coaches were playing cards at night and playing poker or whatever, you know. And you had our football coach hanging out with our tennis coach, which probably never happens, you know, as you guys well know, on a regular basis. So I thought that was really good. And it was just 2 nights. The first day we went up, played golf at a local golf course up there, and then spent Friday night and Saturday night and left early Sunday morning. So I thought that was really, really brought a lot of our varsity head coaches to understand each other and break down some of the different ideas between each other and the barriers that, you know, coaches have and things like that. And the other thing I've been doing that I mentioned last time we were on here is I've been doing a book study every Tuesday night on Zoom for Joe Ehrman's Inside Out Coaching book. And that has been really powerful. And sometimes it's 10 to 15 coaches. Sometimes it's 4 or 5. Sometimes it's, you know, it all depends on who shows up, because a lot of people have stuff going on at 6 o'clock at night on a Tuesday. But the discussions have been incredible. So, and I think I'm going to continue with another novel probably once we get through November and December with the holidays and start it up again. And I've just done consecutive Tuesdays for, you know, I just broke the book up by chapters. So.
Yeah, so you're the one facilitating that and
I do,
posing all the questions?
I even just kind of start out with a question and then it just goes from there. I don't even, you know, I mean, people are just, hey, this really caught me in the novel, and hey, I'm doing this in baseball. Hey, this caught me in the novel. We're instituting this in our women's golf program. Hey, this really, you know, it's just fluid. It really goes we only go for about an hour, and, you know.
Just another question, what in your retreat, what aspects and how are you integrating faith into that retreat model?
So we have a person that works at Napa for our district, and he came and did a little presentation on our core principles. And then we also, you know, then we had a captain's workshop. We had some Wooden course ideas. We're bringing in John Wooden. We had some, then we also had a prayer, you know, we did a prayer service amongst ourselves and prayer each day. And then, you know, this time I've had Ann before in from St. Francis Mountain View speak to the coaches. I might incorporate a guest speaker again into that, with bringing in Catholic identity and faith in that same program. And then the hope is they go, and I also asked them, there's a room up there. So it's a nice place because they have individual rooms, cabins or whatever. So they all brought another coach with them, the varsity head coaches. So one coach to come with them. And I thought that was good because then they can, you know, get that information to their other coaches.
Great idea, Dale. That's a great idea, a retreat. Anybody else?
What we have done for several years now is, for those of you who don't know the geography of Salt Lake, we're right at the base of the Wasatch Mountains, and less than 15 miles from our school, there are several big ski resorts. One of them is Snowbird. And we have a coaches retreat every fall where we rent rooms for coaches and spouses. And then across the street from the Iron Blossom Lodge. The diocese owns a small church called the Our Lady of Snows Church, and we have a coaches retreat every fall, and it is almost entirely faith-based. That we figure we hired you because you know how to coach football, wrestling, tennis, cross country, whatever. But what you don't do on a day-to-day basis is the fact that you're coaching in a Catholic high school is different than any other situation. And what does that mean? How does that manifest itself every day? How are you a witness every day? How does that work into your practices, into your games, into your post-game, pre-game, everything like that? And it's been really successful. Coaches just love it. But first of all, you get to go up and spend some time with your spouse or your significant other at a beautiful place and come out pretty much recharged for the rest of the year. And it's done in cooperation with our campus ministry program, the director of campus ministry, a gentleman named Dave Brunetti, who happened also to have been an all-state defensive tackle back in the day. He's one of the main facilitators of it, and it's a great experience.
So obviously your school is able to fund your retreat for everybody to go.
One of the great things about having Dr. Colosimo as our principal, not only is he a great educator, but he also has a PhD in economics. So so really
awesome.
good at finding money.
Great.
Yeah, one of the things that we've started to do, we've tapped one of our Jesuit priests on campus to be kind of like the chaplain for the coaches, to where we're really talking and breaking down the silos. You guys have talked about that with the retreats, is the football coach never talks to the cross country coach or something like that. So we're working on a common language that we can use. So kids are they're getting the same message, but it's in different ways. And so we're trying to create a common language across all of our coaches. So then kids are getting they're getting used to hearing the same words from all of the different programs that they engage with. And then having the priest kind of ground us in that Catholic identity and making sure that we're doing all the things that we need to do. We haven't gotten to the point of a retreat yet, but that's the long-term goal, is that we would start retreating with each other and really diving into those topics while having some fun and building some camaraderie between the programs. The other thing is that we're instituting when we hire a new coach, we now have a veteran coach kind of mentor them on, here's how we do things here, and here's kind of the expectations of a Catholic educator and a Catholic coach, and how we can instill all of those different things. When I was hired here as a coach, it was just kind of like, well, here's the ball and kind of figure it out. And we want to be a little bit more welcoming to our new coaches, so they can become the old coaches eventually, and they don't just leave because they're frustrated with the lack of sharing of information.
Kevin, do you have a specific kind of like onboarding curriculum that's faith-based in that regard in terms of mentoring?
We do. So our campus ministry program, we have adult formation, and there's a specific, we call them companions. So when somebody gets hired, there's a 5-year program to where they're kind of onboarded, and we're piggybacking with that with campus ministry, kind of sharing their ideas with us and how we can do that with our coaching staffs.
That's great. Now, many of you mentioned getting together with staff, retreats, and so forth. I know Dale uses, it just invites the varsity head coaches. Chris, it sounds like you invite everybody to that thing. Any other
assistant coaches as well? Our entire coaching staff.
I will say this. One of the things that I have found, just in terms of building, a strong community, faith-based community, is to the extent possible, at all times, or as many times you can, is to incorporate your entire staff. I think that is really, really key to building community, is to incorporate, the assistant coaches. What I have found this year in particular, because previously the culture was just focused on the varsity coaches, and now when you start to incorporate the assistant coaches, at the freshman level or JV level, they have a voice and they have more buy-in, and I think in terms of formation, it lends itself for all of us to have a greater impact, particularly if you have coaches who maybe didn't come from the Catholic tradition. So if you're included in them, I think their formation into how and aligning ourselves with our Catholic identity they're more open to it. And I think that is one way to really have an impact on them. Because as we know, for our own formation, faith is ever evolving, and we all have it all kind of ebb and flows and changes, and same thing with coaches. And so we have to provide that space for them to do that. And if we don't, then I think we're really missing the boat on really helping them grow in their faith as well.
Carlos, I agree with that. And after doing this 1 year, I was actually and doing that book study, because some of the best discussions have come from some of the assistant coaches, and some of the coaches at the lower levels. So I was actually thinking I'm going to open it up to anyone that's interested to go to the retreat.
I've also found too, it was interesting, a couple years ago, as part of this coaching group that was speaking to high-level college coaches, and one of the things that really hit me in the face of, and is when those coaches got into some just challenging times, that pretty much to a T, every one of them had indicated, they asked, what did you do to get yourself kind of back up and going when you hit through some rough times? And so every one of them said faith was a part of them getting through very difficult times. And so it really, hit me that it is really, really powerful that we continue and find ways to incorporate faith into our programs. And even though maybe we might not be visible in some ways, it's having an impact. And so I think how do we do that? I think that's the challenge, particularly if we have a coach who is not of the faith, how do we bring them through? And I know we all maybe struggle with various sports and coaches, finding coaches, and maybe there aren't a lot of candidates at that time, but how do we bring them into the fold? And you've had a lot of experience in Catholic education. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, through our diocese, actually, they started the Play Like a Champion through the University of Notre Dame. So all of our coaches, whether paid or unpaid, volunteers, what have you, must go through that program, which again aligns coaching philosophy with our Catholic identity. Again, it's mandatory. You can't coach unless you go through the program, which of course is a little tricky to keep it energetic and, oh no, not another thing. But I did want to share too that with our community, we take our sports teams, again, challenging with COVID right now, but each sport team goes together to Mass, and then the community prays with them during Mass. So they highlight, the girls soccer team is here, or the swim and dive team are here. Even though our school is made up of 8 diocesan churches. So they might go to Holy Family or St. Cecilia, but we come together at Holy Cross Church, and the community, and the players, whether they're Catholic or not, are invited to come. And just to show that, the community is watching and praying for them and want them to be those model students.
That's great, Anne. Has anyone done, one of the things I've been thinking about lately, now I'm at a school, we are a parish school, which is really unique. There's an elementary school and the high school's right next door. We have a parish, and that's so unique. But one of the things I have been thinking a lot about is working with the pastor about having a mass, not necessarily for the students per se, but for the coaches, and inviting the coaches to a mass where they're recognized in front of the community on the work that they do. So has anyone done anything like that? Or okay, great. What are some of the, I know we've talked about things that we've done, but what are some of the things that we find that get in the way of really kind of moving something forward? Kevin mentioned this the long term, that we have this vision to get to this particular place, but what are some of the things that we are all facing or need support on to help us move forward a little bit quicker than maybe we had initially thought? We've got a great list of resources across the country with this organization. And so what I'm hoping to do is figure out, like, what is it that we all need? People mentioned already, book study, retreats, maybe a curriculum on retreats that we can all share with each other. But what is it that currently gets in the way of some of the things that you hope to do or maybe can't move as quickly?
I would say one of the biggest things for us is that, probably 95% of my coaches are out of the building and they have other jobs, and to try to get them together has been a challenge. We have talked about trying to do a retreat. One thing that we did last spring is that we brought all the head coaches together, and our priest he spoke to the head coaches, and we're going to try to continue that coming up this school year, but COVID kind of interfered with that. And so I think one of the challenges that I have is just trying to find time to meet all my coaches' needs, so we can help them develop and build upon their faith.
Yeah, time is a big one. That is.
I think one thing that we are in a very diverse space in Oakland, and our school is, representative of people from a lot of different faiths and spiritual backgrounds. And obviously everyone knows they're part of a Catholic school, and that's important with their education and their athletic experience. But continuing to try to get coaches to value making the time for it, right? So if we were to do a retreat, to say, okay, this is a weekend where you're not scheduling games and you're not scheduling practices, because we believe that this is just as important as you doing that. And so I think that's just been something that we've slowly made progress on. We, several years ago, people were kind of spotty with their attendance or really feeling like there was purpose when we would have our all coaches meetings. And over the last few years, we've made a lot of progress with that. And COVID has really helped us with that as well, and that we are still not cleared to do anything with students and have no kinds of group meetups or anything. But the participation and on Zoom has been huge. And like, the coaches want to talk to each other. They want to be in breakout rooms and discuss different topics. So I think we kind of have that buy-in now, but being patient has been, hard. It's like, you want to all of a sudden feel like everyone is like, yeah, faith is a huge part of my program, but it's just kind of chipping away at it slowly.
Thanks, Hillary. Anything else you add, Chris? What are some things you do at your school with your coaches and requirements around, aligning your?
Yeah, it's been a challenge. A couple of the ADs prior to my arrival weren't necessarily Catholic or had, to integrate faith through our sports program. And I think, and just through the cultural evolution of our school, there's just kind of been silo development, so you have your academic side, your advancement side, your athletic sides, and everybody goes and does their thing, and it's all going to happen. And so I think it's we know, however, when that approach is taken, that things don't integrate very well on a proactive level. And one of those things that suffered is our athletic coaching staff being very secular, and so trying to get back on the right tracks as a student who went there, who felt it to be very integrated with a lot of faculty, staff, coaches that were, in-house. It was a great experience. So, we've ironically, I'm sure you guys have noticed this too, through COVID, we've had a lot more meetings actually, just because it's been easier to get together like this. So that's been a blessing. And so we've talked about values, our goals for our programs, and identifying things that we want to work on, and just kind of getting back to the basics and making some declarations. And then the other thing that we've done, it's not necessarily Catholic per se, but the Positive Coaching Alliance we've partnered with. And I would say, at its core, it's a very, it's a great value system. And it's something that our coaches can latch onto who are not Catholic, who are not a person of faith, to really focus on respect and valuing people and understanding how to talk and relate. That's been foundational for us, just to get some common language and some conversations started. Whereas we have some coaches that are a little nervous, they just don't dive in, they don't really want to talk too much about faith. And so it's been a challenge. But I would say the final thing that's been a challenge is just we're very secular in Portland, even though we're at a Catholic school, a lot of people are coming in to our faith-based school and appreciate it. There's just a huge lack of understanding as to what they're entering into. And so that's an overhaul too, that we need to go through. So anyway, I got a lot of work to do. In terms of intentionality, and so I appreciate this.
I've found that it's, as leaders of our programs, that the more explicit we can be about our own faith and sharing that, I think that is really sets the tone. And in essence, might not see the fruits of that with coaches right away, but I grew up in a place where I went to a public school. It wasn't acceptable to share your faith. That was just not a thing. So you just kind of kept it close to yourself and your family and so forth. But I've seen people who've been more explicit about it, and I just see the reaction that people have around them being open about who they are and what their faith is. And so I think the more open that we can be with our coaches and community around talking about it, opens the door to it. And maybe there are coaches who say, that's not for me. And maybe that's probably for the best, that if they're not aligning with what you're doing. But I think, we have to be more explicit about it. We have to be the leaders with prayer. We have to, talk about it with them, with our kids too. And so I think that's one thing that I've really over the last 4 or 5 years, it's really kind of for my personally has really in my formation I've really kind of said that's something I have to be willing and openly share that more than I have prior to that time. And so I feel like I've gotten a good response, and people have been have appreciated hearing that. So
one other thing I forgot about, our softball coach became a trained 3-dimensional coaching leader. And she led a group of our coaches this summer through that program. And it's there's a part of that that is heavily focused on Christianity. I mean, there's an extra chapter or an extra talk at the end of every lesson. But it was awesome. We had unbelievable conversations with a small group of coaches, getting in, at just some really foundational things that we would appreciate having coaches talk about in regards to how to helping student athletes at the heart level and at the mind level. And the great thing about that program is it quickly moves into those conversations right away. I would highly recommend it if you guys haven't dived into 3-dimensional coaching. It's powerful.
Here's how, for those who've had some very successful programs, how are you programs who win on a regular basis, win state championships, win sectional championships, but don't necessarily, or explicitly have anything that shows or is of faith base, or maybe the coach doesn't necessarily align with your Catholic identity. How do you navigate that? How have you navigated that?
I think one thing I've been doing is using that inside out philosophy for the inside out coaching. Some of you guys have probably seen that, but they do goals versus purpose. And that's what I constantly tell our coaches and our parents. Our goal is to win. We want to win everything we compete at. But there has to be a higher purpose in our school, and our higher purpose is our mission. And that mission has to trump winning and everything else. It's more important than the scoreboard. And we constantly preach that common language. And I think that's really helping with that, keeping that Catholic identity, sportsmanship, success, integrity, honor, and excellence.
Anyone else want to share about that? Because I think it's a really challenging thing, and sometimes those things clash. Like even though they're winning, yet parents are like, "We're winning, we're doing fine." Like the Catholic piece of it, the faith-based part, that's not all that important, and it takes a back seat. So how do you deal with those situations?
I think one thing that we've been talking about, and again, COVID has given us an opportunity to spend some more time connecting with our campus ministry team, and we have a lot of student athletes who are a part of that campus ministry team. And I think maybe we don't forget, but a lot of the kids can kind of drive a lot of that, right? So if you have a captain or a senior on the team that's really dynamic, and faith is a big part of who they are, like that can take over even more than where the coach is coming from, I've seen, and that the kids follow in line. So trying to identify some of those kids as leaders within programs and within athletics overall, and they can also tell you what they need, right? So we're working on putting together some workshops, and I popped in on the campus ministry class the other day on Zoom, and it was like, hey, we want to collaborate. What kinds of things do you guys think student athletes need right now where faith and spirituality comes in? And, a couple of the kids were like, some of us are really struggling, with keeping ourselves accountable to work out and to exercise when we're not seeing, our teammates, and we're kind of having a hard time seeing that light. So maybe we have a support group that starts meeting or whatever. But yeah, so asking them to step up, I think has been something we've talked about.
Monica from Monroe Catholic.
Yeah, how you doing?
A
couple of things. I just piggybacking off of what Hillary said. So what I've been wanting to do, and during this pandemic time, is bringing in our SAC group, our Student Athlete Council. And so basically that's a representative or two for the bigger teams from each sport. And so we've had our first meeting. We'll be having our second meeting this coming up week. And I think that's a good resource to use the qualifications of being on the SAC. For this first year, I just needed to make sure I got the bodies. So I had the coaches ask who was interested, that kind of thing. And they didn't have to be a captain. I wanted people that are willing to unite, address things that are important for them, that we can go back as a community, athletic community, and attack, basically, right? And then they'll have time to share with their coaches as well. But these are key because, getting back to the point of the mission, of course, I'm going to incorporate some leadership tools and get some of their ideas on things that we've mentioned in this group collectively, and they will have time to speak as well. So I think it's just another way to double down in terms of what I want from the coaches, right? And then as far as the coaches, the other gentleman mentioned the Inside Out. I bought the books, but I hadn't been able to implement it yet. And so that is something that I think reflects the faith values. I mean, it's excellent. I've read a little bit about it. I read the book a little bit, and I think it's just great fundamental principles. So I recommend that to all that are interested. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is for our school, we have 4 pillars that we stand by, and we highlight one each year. And so last like 2 years ago, it was family, like our school as a unit. Everybody knows like our theme for the year is family. Last year it was building hope. This year it is respect. So that is fundamental to our Catholic faith. And so we implement that in our coaches meetings and making sure like, how is this going to be seen on your team? What does that look like? And so that's been helpful as well.
Thanks, Monica. Now,
You're welcome.
Monica brought up a great point of, in terms of getting coaches and, formation for our adults of, utilizing our student leaders. That's a great way to get, to move them. Has anybody else done anything along those lines with their student leaders to, around faith to help move their team and peers and, even the adults for that matter?
We really try to incorporate the entire student body with athletics so that they're not seen as two separate entities. So if you're not playing the sport, you're definitely supporting the sport. And so we have our student ambassadors, and one of the things that they do before the school year is put, the welcome to the Holy Cross family signs and all the incoming freshman yards. So easy to do with only 342 students at our high school. And then so about 100 freshmen, but being able to start that right away, that you're part of our family, you're part of our Catholic family, and that the older leaders of our school are involved in that.
Great. Anything else anyone wants to add? We have a couple more minutes. We usually go from 50 minutes or so. This has been great. So far, just what I have, things that have kind of come out is, retreats, book study, student leaders, a mentorship program. Those seem to be all some, sources for us to pull together. I mean, I can see us down the road, and I'm just been thinking a lot about this, as an organization. If we can get to the point where we have maybe some kind of standard benchmarks for athletics as it relates to, faith formation or aligning our Catholic identity, and that way it gives all of us, who are in the organization, has a framework to work from and resources to go, because it's, it's hard when you have, we all got a lot of responsibilities, and the more kind of like framework that we have, I think it will help guide us to, execute things quicker. And I know I could definitely utilize that and get some support and ideas from other people. So I'm in the middle of I want to start trying to put that together, and maybe I'll create a Google Doc and people can share links to maybe curriculum that you've put together for coaches or retreats, and then we can draw from that. I think that would be really helpful. One of the things Leo brought up, and I think it's a great idea too, is a prayer book. There's a prayer book that we can draw from that are maybe sports specific. And I know that Play Like a Champion has a good resource, and they do have a list of prayers that you can download, and that's a good place to get some. But there's got to be others out there, and so pulling something like that together that we can use, or maybe send off to our kids for the week or month. Here's our monthly prayer everybody's going to use, or something along those lines. Does anybody have anything else to add in before we head off? I'm planning to have these once a month, and of a check-in. We'll send that out again, through our LinkedIn communication and through our distribution list. Thanks everybody for being a part of it. Great to see some familiar faces and some new faces.
Thanks for organizing this, Carlos, and it's really unique and rewarding to see people from all around the country too. So appreciate everybody.
Yeah. Chris, who is your nephew?
Benjamin Ponting.
Well, thanks everybody.
Look him up.
I gotta ask, did you know him?
No, I gotta look him up.
Thanks, Carlos.
Okay. Yeah, he was not in athletics. Let's just put it